What's up, everyone? It's Venomous Stare. It's 6:30 in the morning and I'm pretty hammered, but we're going to be making our third Call of Duty Modern Warfare impressions video. This is sort of like day 3. First day we talked about how to optimize your game and make it actually playable, as well as fix the audio distortion. Second day we talked about how the overly vertical maps in the game encouraged campy play and made the game very frustrating. Today we're going to talk about how the way the lobbies are structured makes the game virtually insufferable. So in old Call of Duty games, if you joined a lobby, let's just say you're queued up with 3 friends, and you joined a lobby for domination, and it would say, okay, you have Summit Domination, and you found a lobby with 3 other people. So you have your 3 friends and you and 3 randoms, and you would be in a lobby together. You could talk. The lobby would fill up. It would get to 12v12 or 12v12. It would get to 6v6, totaling 12 players, or like a 5v5, and the game would start. And you would get a full match on Summit. The game would end, and then you would basically be put back into a lobby for 50 seconds with the same players. A new map would be selected. Oftentimes in many of the COD games you would have your choices between different maps. Frequently you were able to pick the previous map again if it was worth playing, which was a system that encouraged good maps because the good maps could be played more frequently than the bad maps, which, if you think about it on a very basic level, if you have a map pool of 10 maps and you let the people pick the map that was just played, you're going to be able to play the good maps much more frequently because you're always going to be able to double up. And that might seem very obvious to some, but for the dim-witted Chinese dick deep-throating wastes of life at Blizzard, that wasn't very evident. So what they do is, instead of having votes on the maps that you're about to play, they just throw you whatever the fuck. And considering every single map is below average, that's terrible, because what happens is, A, there's no map voting system, so you just randomly get stuck with whatever garbage map the game decides. And more importantly, whenever you end a game, you don't get put into a lobby with the same people you just played onto a new map. You get thrown into queue again. So this is how the play experience goes in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. My buddy and 3 of my friends, you can tell I've been drinking, you can tell it's 6:30. I queue up with 3 of my buddies to play this game, right? What happens? We find a match, we get 4 randoms, and we play against 8 people. It's a fresh game, which is somewhat fun, and we win. Now, instead of getting to play against the same people we just played against, maybe the teams mix up a little bit with the randoms, which is normal. Instead of playing another 8v8 with the same players on a different map, we get thrown way back into queue as though we had backed out for a new lobby, re-queued, and gotten basically all new players. Now the crux of the issue with this is it's not that you have to play against new people, it's that this game bizarrely has taken the normal game mode of Call of Duty and turned it into 9v9, and then turned Ground War, which was 9v9 back in the day, into like 32v32 Battlefield Campfest without buildings that actually degrade and react to damage. And what that equates to is you'll have a handful of friends, play a game, win. You won't do anything, you won't back out. You just wait after the game ends, you get your match bonus, you get thrown back into queue, and then you play a 5v5. The game finds 5 other people as opposed to 9, when basically all of the games are supposed to be 9v9. Every single map is like a huge shit tier ground war map that doesn't really play well unless you have 9 people. So you spend half of the night searching for games and playing incomplete games. Now this is extremely detrimental when you consider how poor the flow of the game is based on poor map design, and more importantly, how boring a 5v5 is. Now in general in Call of Duty, starting the game as a 5v5 is sort of silly. Within the first week of the game coming out, it's very obvious that you can find constant 6v6 matches. This is substantiated by the fact that there's cross-server play. There are 1 million Xbox kids and 1 million PS4 kids that can be thrown into PC lobbies. Now remember when in Black Ops 4 they consistently cut down the amount of playlists and forced these hybrid playlists like Team Mosh Pit, and your average cretin would say, well, there's just so few people on this game, it's dead. And even the most dim-witted person would be able to justify that not being true and be able to identify that as a lie. And something that is obviously not true. I can get on Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 2 right now and find full games. 10-year-old games, over 10-year-old games, people are still playing and you can still find full lobbies. And you're going to tell me the Call of Duty game that just came out a few months ago, you can't find 6 fucking people to play domination. That's a joke. So whenever you consider the fact that this game, every time you finish a match, will throw you back into queue as opposed to just having the lobby you just played against that's full stay intact and continue to play matches together, it really fucks up the game, because what happens is you spend your time playing 4v6s, 6v4s, 5v5s, 9v7s. You play these boring, corny, abhorrent, scuffed, shit-tier games because anyone with an ounce of talent at Blizzard was fired. They were shit-canned. They were ousted. So Blizzard could pack themselves to the gills with these dim-witted demo hire wastes of life that couldn't know a good map if it bit them on the ass. And that's the situation we were in at the moment. We were playing a game where all of the maps are made for 12v12 or greater, except for the 2v2 maps, obviously. 2v2 probably, just like in StarCraft, very fun, might even arguably be the best mode. But when you consider that all of the maps that the player base was fed were these massive, camp-friendly, boring maps with no flow, if you don't play them at 9v9, they're fucking horrible. Terrible. What's funny is the normal maps play like ground war maps, and the ground war maps play like Battlefield. If you ever played Call of Duty 4 on PC, then you probably played maps on Shipment where there were more than 12 players allowed. And I played 6v6 Shipment Domination back on Xbox 360, and you could get 100 kills pretty easily on those games. So the PC games where there would be 10 versus 10 plus, it'd be a total fuckfest. But you know what? It was really fun. And this is sort of the opposite in this game, is you have a game that basically has these massive, long-winded, boring maps that weren't properly designed. And fuck the fact that they're big, and you basically have 10 two-story buildings with 15 different corners in each building surrounding the middle of the map, and football fields on each side of the map, where there's these huge open vast areas where nothing but defensive play and sniping goes on. But you sit here and you play this game and you get thrown into a new lobby at the end of every game, forced to constantly play these boring half-filled lobbies when the game is 3 days old. Someone really screwed the pooch. Someone was so exceptionally dim that they not only don't deserve to work at they don't deserve to work in game design, they couldn't even hold down a job at McDonald's. Yet you don't have anyone higher up saying, why the fuck are these maps so big? Why is it that all of these maps have no flow, they're camper friendly, have a ton of vertical play that ruins the map, yet you can't even get a full lobby, or even close to a full lobby, the third day the game is out? And I'm not sitting here bitching about a 9v8, okay? Let's get that straight. 1 player down, 2 player down, that's just part of the game. We're talking on these maps that should only be 9v9 or better, or greater, or more players. When I say, oh, they're 9v9 maps, they could fucking be played as 15v15, and then it would actually be fun. But 9v9 is like the minimum. That's how awful these maps are. Yet, you're constantly playing 5v5s, 4v6s. You know how fucking annoying it is to play Headquarters 4v6? Do you know how much of a disadvantage that is? Do you know how irritating it is to have to go 9 and 18 just to win a headquarters match because the other team has 2 extra players the entire time. That's infuriating. It makes the game not fun. Tonight I went on a 14-game win streak, and the win streak was snapped by a disconnect. This is the sort of thing that we're dealing with here. Now, this game isn't as crashy as Black Ops 1, but I still crashed 2 or 3 times every session, which is too much. I know crashes are sort of part of a newer computer game, but whenever you consider how unfun the average match is and how much of a browbeating it is just to get through it, if you're having to add crashes into it, really doesn't cut it. You know what would make this game good? Bringing back old maps. Because if you look at this game at its core, the gun balance is pretty good. The kill streaks are balanced and not really spammy. The net code is decent. There's not a lot of bad hit registration. The FPS is fine. Once you follow my day 1 video on how to fix your settings, it runs pretty smooth. There are a lot of core things about this game that are fine, but the maps fuck everything up. The re-queuing every match involuntarily fucks everything up. Imagine how fun this game would be if the map pool was ambush, backlot, crossfire, broadcast, summit, firing range, terminal, and you just stuck with those 8. This might be the best COD. And I know it's very bizarre for me to say that after I've talked about all the bad parts of this game, but really so much of this comes down to maps, because if the maps are good, a lot of this horse shit can be mitigated. You know, the fact that the games frequently turn into a snooze fest where there are 25% as many players as there should be in the game. That's sort of negated if you're playing on ambush. A lot of this stuff can really be pushed to the side, and if you play mostly on PC, you're aware of the fact that a lot of the maps that console players might traditionally know as 6v6 in old Call of Duty games, you can actually load extra players into it. It just makes it more fun. If you consider that you can play Modern Warfare 2, Terminal, and basically have way more people than a 6v6, at least in the Modern Warfare 2 on PC that I'm familiar with. Or if you actually look at Call of Duty 4, a game that traditionally didn't rip apart the old school PC server picking format, COD 4, I remember playing on the like a 12v12 plus broadcast search and destroy server. Max players was like 32. Usually it was about 20 plus players. Super fun, more action. But you know what? In this game, they double the size of the map, and not only do they fuck up the ability for players to play in a consistently high numbered game, but they made it where you are constantly having to restart. I mean, that is just like being kicked in the fucking head over and over. Oh, I just won. It was a fun game. I have a little rivalry with the other team. They were talking a little bit of shit. I was coming back at them. Oh, well, you're re-queued. Here's a 5v5 on a map designed for 12v12. So the matchmaking is really bad in terms of filling lobbies and whatnot. And you also have to consider that the maps are way too big, which exasperates the problem. This game could legitimately be one of the most fun Call of Duties ever. What do? You increase the maximum number of players per map, and you implement an old school map pool. Look at the Call of Duty games released recently. Many of them feature old school maps. Remember that. Remember the fact that Black Ops 4 had Summit. It had firing range. It even had jungle, which in Black Ops 1 really wasn't considered all that good, but was a decent map. And it's sort of funny when you look at the lack of talent in the recent Call of Duty game devs, because you take a map like jungle, which in Black Ops 1 was considered an average, sort of campy defensive map, and you compare it to the garbage in Black Ops 4, jungle was like the 5th best or 4th best map in that game. It was behind Summit and firing range, okay? And you could sort of debate from there, but it's very interesting whenever you consider, even if you bring back average maps, they're like god tier in these recent games. Think about maps like Cracked, from Black Ops 1. Generally considered an average map. Think about a map like Villa or Havana, which were very average maps. Not bad, not great, but solid, playable. Those would be god tier in this game. I really realized how terrible these maps were whenever I was explaining this game to my friend who didn't have the game, and he asked about the Call of Duty Black Ops 1 map Array. And I sort of thought about the maps and I said, if Array was in this game, it would be the best map. Was Array big? Yeah. Was it maybe too big, especially around the edges? Yeah, maybe, especially around the spawns. But what did Array have? It had flow. It had personality. It had consistency. It had a sort of thought process behind it where the tower was a strong power position that looked down the back path, the middle of the map, and the middle tower. The middle tower was good because you could get a lot of vision, but you could always look in that one little horizontal windowed section and spot people. In this game, you're looking all around. There's 15 different windows to check. There's 20 different angles around the map to look for. There's a million different corners. That's bad map design. That's Call of Duty Ghost map design. And that leads to an unfun, irritating experience that you really have to have at least a 5-man team to mitigate. Once you get to about a 5-man team, you can actually trust that the people on your team can watch your flank and watch your back, and it gets a little bit less bad, but that's not really like a legitimate excuse or a legitimate explanation. As it stands, this game significantly struggles in terms of maps, and the real kicker is that you're constantly having to join these scuffed 5v5 lobbies in a game that frankly was designed to be ground war the whole time. Sub for more. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing these videos. I'm trying to grind up to the final number 2 perk. It's called like Hardpoint Man or some bullshit. Let's see. Point Man. Turn your kill streaks into score streaks. I think there's a lot of ways you can abuse this, specifically with shooting stuff down, playing the objective, or maybe even some sort of weird like amped setup where you abuse equipment. But once I figure that out, hopefully I can post a nice little gameplay commentary, because these end of day drunken rants are sort of getting old for me, because I think if nothing is done, if this game continues to be just a 5v5 fest, it's going to get pretty boring. Because I think about the excuses people made about Black Ops 4 and the lobbies not filling and having to wait forever for games, and it makes me really realize how much horseshit that was, because this game is cross-server, and you're not honestly going to tell me that on day 3 of a new Call of Duty game, the PlayStation and Xbox kids have already fucked off. That's a joke. Everyone knows there's 1 million plus players on this game at all times easily, and on the weekends and on prime hours it's way north of that, especially in the first month the game is out. You should never have to play a 4v4. So get your shit together, Blizzard. I know you guys are busy counting your money and thinking about the next option you have, the virtue signal towards how much you love the Chinese government, but you might actually want to code your game first. Sub for more.